Welcome to the Wingman Show. We're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. Hi, my name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, my friend, the one and only Dr. Paul Thompson. How are you, brother Paul? How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Mr. Drew. Good to see you. Hope we have a good show. You look fit and full of vigor.
Well, thank you so much. I got a good quote for you today. I believe that love is the greatest thing in the world, that it alone can overcome hate, that right can and will triumph. I'll do it again. I believe that love is the greatest thing in the world, that alone it can overcome hate, that right can and will triumph. Believe it or not, that's by John D. Rockefeller. And you and I know Rockefeller because he was the governor of our state when we were little kids. But this is John D. That was Nelson Rockefeller. And a little story to tell you, Dr. Paul, about John D. Rockefeller. Believe it or not, I spoke once because when I was doing motivational speaking, I spoke at a dinner for him once. And I told him this story. When I went to college, I've said it before on the show, but when I went to college, I got a full scholarship to Southern University to play basketball in New Orleans. And I asked my dad, hey, can you send me some money for a car? He said, sure, son, I'll send you some money. He sent me $150 and had the nerve to have a note that said, make sure you get good tires. I was like, Dad, I think they cheated you at the bank. He was like, no, that's enough. Why did you do this? Why are you doing this? He said, I heard that Rockefeller, when he sent his son to Harvard, that his roommate realized that Rockefeller's son had a Rolls Royce. And so his roommate left college and he didn't go back to school. So Rockefeller took away the Rolls Royce and gave him a regular car. And I asked my dad, what the hell does that got to do with me? Well, anyway, that's my little John D. Rockefeller story. What about that, Dr. Paul?
That's not my first question. Did you get good tires?
I got him to send me actually $1,300 more, and I got a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia for $1,500. Was my first college car, and it was great. I loved my Carmen Ghia, no kidding. Believe it or not, the writers went on strike. Now the actors are going on strike. There's not going to be any more television or movies. What are we going to do, Dr. Paul? How about this one? ESPN just fired like 20 of their top newscasters, their highest paid newscasters. I don't know if that has something to do with Disney because, you know, Disney's suing Florida, Florida's suing Disney, and Disney owns ESPN. But to tell you the truth, I'm not watching ESPN too much anymore. And then not only that, the New York Times, the great celebrated New York Times, just deleted, ended, finished their entire sports department. So things are happening right now. Dr. Paul, what about no more movies? What about no more? You can't binge anymore. We're going to have to watch old stuff. I don't watch late night TV anymore because they're all reruns. Saturday Night Live, all reruns. So guess what I'm doing? You're not going to believe it, Dr. Paul. What about reading? Don't get scared, everybody. What about reading?
Reading is good. Like everybody needs to read more. I need to read more. Yeah, it's interesting. All these media companies are kind of putting the kibosh on things altogether. You talk about the writer's strike. Actors are going to honor the strike. A lot of it has to do with AI. It has to do with other things, but basically using, you know, your image, your work, and then adapting it to something else forever and ever and ever, and not paying you, essentially. Basically using machine learning to copy your patterns, whoever you are, an actor or a writer or whatever, just to get a good start and keep on going. So you could have, like you said, perhaps the celebrities who are deceased coming back and just, you know, redoing different songs. There'd be an infinite connection or infinite combination of things you could do to generate more income, more money, and not pay the estates or the families anything. So everybody's trying to get a cut. ESPN, yeah, I was surprised of all the people they got rid of. Some of our favorites are there, but yeah, they said they lost a lot of money, and they're trying to trim down costs. I'm thinking about Disney. and Disney stock is, kind of floundered. I'm not sure why they bought Sports Network, but the high price anchors, a couple of them are still there, but everybody else is gone. And honestly, I don't watch ESPN as much as I did before. Some of it's entertaining, but after a while, the yelling and the craziness over something, it's a little bit over the top. A lot of sports shows are like that. They start, blah, blah, blah. They talk about someone, making a play or something like that. It's not about global warming or the problem with taxes or crime in the streets. It's, do they really deserve $45 million a year? And the people who typically argue that, even in just regular everyday life, tend to be really, really broke. You ever notice that?
You're right, Dr.
That's my soapbox. Who get the most passionate about the fight physically, they're typically broke. I'm thinking a lot of some barbershop things.
Stephen A. Smith didn't get fired, and he's probably the loudest one on ESPN. They had to keep somebody.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd stop paying attention. But like any act, any performer, sometimes stuff gets stale and old, and you can actually get overexposed if you're always on TV. Oh, he's got a podcast. But it's pretty good. I've listened to him. I've listened to his interviews, and it's interesting because he sounds very different when he's being interviewed by somebody than when he's doing his normal show. But sometimes you can get like a little too much exposure.
Well, check out my jet behind me. You see that Blackbird?
Yeah.
Class 71, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
It's a super badass plane. You got to wear a space suit to fly it. You have to wear oxygen mask. I mean, full space suit to fly these things. I think they go 80, 90,000 feet in the air. Isn't that correct, Dr. Paul?
Yeah. It's interesting. They call it Blackbird. It's got the black paint. That black paint helps it deflect radar signals. It's actually kind of the first stealth airplane. But that's not the first airplane like that. When you said oxygen, it keyed off something in my mind. The original airplane is called the A-10. It was the A-10 Ox Cart. That was an A-10 Ox Cart. It looked just like the SR-71. It came out a few years before, and that was actually made for the CIA.
Wow, that's amazing. Dr. Paul, we're going to show a picture of that Ox Cart. Matter of fact, all of you YouTube watchers out there, please hit that subscribe button. All of our frequent flyers, that means people who listen to us every week, thank you so much. All of our new listeners, thank you so much. Hit us up on Instagram. You can write a review on Apple Podcasts. And we have our own website called wingmanshow.com. We have something there called the frequent flow line, meaning you can ask a question. Any question you want, Dr. Paul and I will answer it. Once again, wingmanshow.com. Write us. Check us out. But you YouTube subscribers, thanks a lot. We really appreciate it, Dr. Paul, don't we?
Yes, we do. Those who listen, like, and share a message are doing a great service to us and great service to everyone else who needs to hear a positive message, something good going out, not just the depressing things in the world that pepper our eyeballs and ears every day.
Well, let's get to it right now. Guess what? We're going to show some pictures again right now for our YouTube watchers, and for the people on Apple Podcasts and the other people who are just listening to us. We'll just kind of describe this. In medical drawings, and all the ones I've ever seen, they only do white skin, and that's just typical. Well, this girl, her name, I love it, Sidi Bear Ibi, is a Nigerian woman, 27 years old, and she's starting to do black skin in medical drawings, meaning that if you only see white skin in all medical drawings, that means doctors who are learning are going to take white as normal, and anything other than these drawings are abnormal. The problem is that dark skin, first of all, there are more dark people than there are light people in this world. But the real problem is that if you don't show like melanoma on dark skin, is that Black people are 3 times more likely to develop melanoma and not be detected than white people, because the pictures on your screen or on the medical books are all white. They really don't show black skin with melanoma on it. And now some company is going to pick this girl up and they're going to start indoctrinating more dark-skinned people in medical books. The actual number is, out of 4,000 pictures, I think they found maybe 30, 40 pictures that had dark skin. Dr. Paul, talk to me about this, because this is wonderful, actually.
Yeah, this is good. I guess it will help everyone, I suppose, by, not featuring, darker people, different skin hues. Some things may go undetected, undiagnosed. You mentioned skin cancer. Maybe there's some other skin conditions, dermatological and maybe medical too. That's an area of a lot of concern. Diagnoses. I understand the maternal health of Black women in the U.S. is not the greatest, and there are a lot of factors that probably account for that. Some we talk about: diet, exercise, access to this, access to that. But it's good to have a physician that knows, what you should look like, what you should be doing, and this doesn't discount you because you look different. And that probably does happen.
100%. And the trip is there are more dark-skinned people than light-skinned. So dark-skins should actually be in the medical books, because light-skinned, for things like cancer and things, melanoma, you can see that a lot easier. So you would figure that they would start showing some of the harder pictures, something that doctors can diagnose. But I think that that's wonderful that they're going to start introducing this. How about this one, Dr. Paul? You and I'm fired up about this one. You and I are all about education, because you and I know that with a good education and a good skill, you can be anything you want. And especially if you're an American, whatever you want to be, if you work hard enough, you can get it. But education is the key. Dr. Paul, what if I told you that if you lived in North or South Carolina, you can go to Duke University for free? If your household makes less than $150,000, you get free tuition at Duke University. And check this out. If your household makes less than $65,000, they will give you a full ride, meaning tuition, books, lodging, food, the entire thing. Duke University, wow. If you don't make it in the Carolinas, it's not my fault.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a fantastic opportunity. I wonder if they're going to increase your enrollment. Maybe, maybe not. So, but the thing is, you've got to make the grade. You've got to be able to get in there, obviously. So, do your work, work hard, and imagine coming out of college these days with no student debt.
Wow,
that's tremendous. Yeah,
that's tremendous. There's a lot of, I went to school. I didn't have any money. I went to New Mexico State as a walk-on, didn't make it. I came back and went to a community college for basically free for 1 year, and then got a full scholarship to Southern universities. There are ways for you to get your education, but Duke is making it easy. And no, I do not think they lowered their requirements. So you still got to study. You still have to work your ass off. But could you imagine going to Duke for free?
Yeah, I mean, that's a different kind of scholarship. Again, there are other scholarships that are out there. So if you're in the market, for going to school, look around, really, really look around for non-traditional sources. Perhaps there's some skill you have as a young person, something you're into. There are all kinds of scholarships that are not really advertised and requires a lot of detective work. A lot of things are like that. There are a lot of good deals out there that are not in plain sight. You do have to do some digging and calling and talking. And expect to hear no. I think there's a rule of 7 or 17. If you're dealing with business or the government, expect the first 7 to 17 phone calls to be a no before you get a yes. So don't
That's
get
very good.
discouraged.
That's excellent, Dr. Paul.
That's not original. I heard
no
that.
Doesn't mean no. No means try another way. I always have that. No, when you tell me no, it doesn't mean much. It means I got to find another way to get what I want. Okay, let's go to this one. I love this, Dr. Paul. I love that we are going to announce that the first professional women's soccer coach has just been designated in England. The team actually got put down to the second tier in professional soccer in England, and they got this lady named Hannah Dingley, and she is going to be the coach of this incredible professional soccer team. Dr. Paul, what do you think about that?
Wow. Yeah, I think she's the interim coach. I guess she's not the permanent coach, but she'll be the interim coach for a while. And that's, I guess, unusual in sports, and particularly unusual in England. It has a history of
Very male.
male-dominated coaches.
Yeah, very male dominated in England. And the name of, just to tell you the name of the team, it's the Forest Green Rovers. And they're in the Premier League. They've just been relegated down to the second league. But that, you ever watch Ted Lasso? I don't know if you do, but we love Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso shows about English pro soccer. And I just think it's wonderful. I love that show. It's amazing.
Yeah, I haven't seen the show. I've heard of it. I've heard some good comments about it. Well, that may be something. They have the reruns if everything stops and everybody's on strike. Maybe I can catch up and look at your Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso's great, and anybody who hasn't seen it, I'm giving you my. I learned this. You know what a soccer field is called? A pitch.
Pitch.
That's right, a pitch.
Yeah. How
about that? You learn something on the Wingman Show every day. All right, Dr. Paul, here comes one of my favorite parts, and it's to ask you questions because you're one of the smartest guys I know. So let's figure out some of these questions. First question, what actor, this is going to be a good one, what actor has the top most grossing over $100 million movies ever? What actor has been in more $100 million movies than any other actor? And I will give you the number. It was 45 $100 million movies this person has been in. Can you give me a name that you would think that would be there?
Okay, so that's $4.5 billion. That's a lot. Do I just have one choice or one guess?
You can name them until you get it.
How about Harrison Ford?
He was one of them, but he's not the winner. But he was actually the first one to lead the $100 million group. Harrison Ford was in that list, but he's not top.
Okay.
How about another?
I don't know. I want to say Tom Cruise, but
very good. That's the second one. He was leading until this guy just blew him all away. So you have Harrison Ford, you have Tom Cruise, who is the number one leading actor.
I get three choices.
Excuse me?
Three choices. I'm going to step out on a limb on that. Samuel L. Jackson.
Bam! You hit it, Dr. Paul.
Really?
That's why you're Dr. Paul. That's why you're Dr. Paul. Samuel L. Jackson.
Wow.
First of all, he's been in 208 movies, but he is the leading actor in $100 million films. And the ones that really took him over the top are all these Avenger films, Marvel, those kind of films that are just coming out. Matter of fact, he's 72, I think, and has 10 movies in the can right now.
Really? Yeah. Somebody like that, he's probably not in front of the camera the whole time. He comes, does his part, and leaves. Wow.
How about that? I'm going to give you a number now that's going to blow your mind, but I'm going to tell you that there are 7.5 sextillion grains of sand on the planet, and 7.5 sextillion has 17 zeros. And how they did it is they filled up a gallon jug with sand, counted how many grains of sand were in there, and then they used mathematical equations to find out how much sand is on the planet, and that's what they came up with. What about that number? 7.5 sextillion.
Yeah, that sounds like, scientists were drinking too much beer one day or something. I guess you can come with that. Because that should be like a philosophical question. How many angels can fit on the head of a pin?
Well, no, this is mathematical actual fact. So my question to you is, how many stars are there in the sky to each grain of sand? Is it 1 to 1?
Oh,
10 more or less?
10 to 1. I don't know.
So you say 10 to 1?
Yeah, 10 to 1.
10 to 1. Well, the answer, Dr. Paul, is 10,000 stars to every grain of sand. And if you want to know what that number is, that's 70 septillion, and that's 23 zeros after that number.
Wow. Okay. I'll accept that.
10,000 stars. Are you kidding? That is totally incredible, Dr. Paul.
Yeah. Well, The white star I'm really looking at most of the time is the sun, which is our solar system. It's a star.
And did you know that we actually know more about the stars and the universe than we do the ocean? Do you know that 80% of the ocean has never been explored?
I understand that. Yeah, the ocean, it's not a smooth bottom. There are mountains under the ocean, which we don't really think about too much. It's a big deal if you're in a submarine. But yeah, I guess the deepest part is the Marianas Trench. It goes down I think it's like 13, 14, down 20,000 feet or so. Yeah, it's not a lot of stuff living down there.
No, not a lot. How about this number? How many trees do you think this Canadian man, Antoine Moses, he believes in planting trees to help, climate, help, the weather now is terrible. It's just getting worse. And I don't care if you hear us now and you're in the summer or you're in the winter, it's more extreme than it used to be. But how many trees do you think this man, he did it on a Guinness Book of Records. He went for the record. How many trees did he plant in 24 hours?
24 hours. Oh, let's see, do a tree a minute. No, not tree a minute, tree in 10 minutes, 6 an hour, 100 trees.
How about 23,000 trees in Canada? Some kind of way he put 23,000 trees in the ground in 24 hours. Incredible. Last question. You've seen the Rubik's Cube, haven't you?
Yes.
I can't do it at all. First of all, I don't have the patience to do it. Have you seen guys really do it fast?
I've seen a couple people do it pretty quick in a few minutes.
Well, they just broke the world record. What do you think the fastest somebody's ever done a Rubik's Cube in?
30 seconds.
His name is Max Park. He's 21 years old. He does Rubik's Cubes in 3 seconds. I saw it. It is freaking incredible. That brings me to a Wingman PSA from the 11 Facts in Life. Fact number 10 continued. Would you rather be right or rather be happy? Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? My answer to you is 100% I'd rather be happy. Being right is way overblown as far as I'm concerned. And we have too many arguments and ego problems with always who's right, who's right, who's right. Guess what? There's no scoreboard. At the end of the day, you don't get a score. Be happy. Forget about being right all the time. Because, last week we even said it, the dumber you are, the smarter you become. My dad said that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it gives you a chance to grow. Sometimes, it's better to take a secondary position. I found people argue over things that really are inconsequential, and maybe they're arguing over something else. But especially if you're talking about a close person, someone that you're close to, don't get so wrapped up in being right all the time. Sometimes instead of who's right, it's really a matter of what's right.
Very good, Dr. Paul.
What are we doing?
That's really good.
That way. What's right?
Well, our frequent flow line. So somebody wrote us this week, and our frequent flow line is on wingmenshow.com. We have a newsletter. We write about stuff every week. It's an excellent newsletter. The letter this week came from a 52-year-old woman from Tampa, Florida. And guess what she asked us? She asked us that she wants to go back to school, but she's scared. What should she do? My first funny answer would be move to the Carolinas.
Okay.
But right. 52 years old, wants to get back into school, but she's scared to do it. Do you have some advice for her, Dr. Paul?
Yeah, don't be scared at all. You mentioned she's 52. I'm going to assume that she put that right out in front. So she's probably looking at her age and comparing herself with the age of other freshmen or other young people. She might be probably older than a lot of professors. Not a big deal. I understand that. Right after I retired, I actually enrolled in a college program at Emory University. Like the next 2 months later, I was in class. And it was cool. And it was pretty laid back. But everybody was young. This was for adults. But everybody was a lot younger than me. In fact, most were younger than my children. And it was a bit of an adjustment. They were very, very sharp and very, very quick. And I realized that I had to really get up to speed on some things that I thought I was pretty good at. So you're a little bit off there because you're probably going to be a little bit slower, but you can do that. Yeah, don't worry about it. You're going to be a little slower. They may look to you for advice, but as an older person, actually you do bring a lot to the table.
That's right.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Even if she said she was 72 or 82, I'd say the same thing. As long as you can keep up, as long as something you enjoy doing it, go for it.
Go for it. She said she's 52. Here's the deal also. You will actually get more out of going back to college than somebody 18 just starting, because usually kids just trying to get a good grade. You at that age, you care about this education, you're paying for this education, and you will pay attention a lot more than if you were 17 or 18. So let's use this, let's take a negative and make it a positive. You'll get a finer education if you're older because you'll spend more time learning.
Yeah, and she might say, well, so let's just say it's a 4-year program. She said, well, if I go in at 52, I won't finish until I'm 56, 4 years later. And I said, well, if you don't go, you don't do anything, how old will you be 4 years from now?
That's right.
56. Don't worry about it.
Very good, Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul, the Wingman Show tries to bring positive messages to the people. There's bad news all around us, but guess what? You got two brothers here trying to bring you some good news. And the good news we're going to bring you this time is our Wingman of the Week. Dr. Paul will tell you about this Wingman. Adoption is very, very important. And I'd like to hear about our Wingman because this is a great one.
This is a nice one. The old, the parable, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And just add a word onto it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you eventually. The adoption is a very rewarding experience. And many people open up their homes for children that need a home. Well, sometimes there's something I call reverse adoption. And this is the case. Our Wingman is a couple named Sarina and Wilson Carballo. Sarina and Wilson Carballo is a couple from the East Coast that moved to Texas. Moved from the East Coast to Texas and were adjusting and, not sure of, where they were going and how things were. And they had 5 children. And they came upon a person named Paul Callahan. Paul Callahan was a neighbor. They came over to welcome them to the neighborhood and was very instrumental in helping them get readjusted. Very friendly. He's an 82-year-old gentleman. And they found he was just so friendly and so helpful. They actually adopted him. 6 months before the couple arrived there with their children, Paul Callahan's wife passed away. And he was by himself, apparently a very social person. I think he was a retired engineer for Texas Instruments. And he was by himself. He found himself coming over all the time. And basically the family adopted him as a grandpa. They adopted him as a grandpa. And it's a nice thing. We'll show some pictures of them. And the thing is that there is an adopted grandparent program nationwide, which I didn't know about. And it's a program that links senior citizens, really the elderly, with young high school and college students who go to retirement centers and do things with senior citizens who in many cases are lonely, where their families don't see them. They don't visit them, and they are lonely people. And even in the case of this Paul Callahan, all of his siblings had passed away. Mm-hmm. So really he was kind of by himself. They bonded together. I know in this case, they do family outings. He's at all the barbecues and, it does, care for the children. So this is a case of not so much each one teach one, but so it's good to do something for an old person. I said eventually, because if we live long enough, eventually we'll all get old. Say, well, I'm old already. It's all your frame of reference.
Well, Dr. Paul, you're only as old as you think you are, number one. But also, isn't it amazing that in this country, the two people we seem not to take care of, the young and the old. And it's funny because we were all young, and God bless it, if we do the right thing, we'll all become old. And it's very frustrating to see how they treat the elderly. And, in Asia, it's exactly the opposite. They actually revere their elderly. And I know why, because TOP, we both say that, Dr. Paul,
Yeah.
time on planet. I'm getting much wiser, but not because I'm smart, just because of time on planet. I've been here longer, I've done more things, and I've learned from them. That's all. Dr. Paul, I can't thank you enough for another great show. And for you and all our listeners out there, whatever you think is beautiful, whatever you believe is meaningful, and Dr. Paul and all you listeners out there, whatever makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace, Dr. Paul.
I pray for peace too. And once again, thanks to all those who listen, like, and subscribe to our channel. Please subscribe, especially if on YouTube, and we can be heard on all of the podcast outlets for those who just listen. But please pass this on to other people.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com. WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.